Cinemassacre's Monster Madness.
Happy October! You know, killer mummies, why aren't they as popular as other types of monsters? Vampires, zombies, and aliens are always getting all this attention. So let's pay some respect to the mummies. I'm going to talk about the Universal Mummy series. There never was an actual sequel to this movie. The rest of the Universal series focused on a different mummy. After Universal made horror history with Dracula and Frankenstein, both in 1931, they immediately looked for another big hit. Inspired by the discovery of King Tutankhamun's tomb and the curse attached to it, they decided to make a movie about a mummy rising from the dead. And that's what Dracula was, a guy who lived after death, and Frankenstein's monster was stitched together with dead body parts and brought back to life. So it's always about resurrection in some form or another. They're all zombies. What makes The Mummy unique is that unlike Dracula and Frankenstein, The Mummy was not based on a book. It was a fresh, original idea, even though there were some books like The Ring of Thoth, which bears a strong resemblance. There was no direct literary source. It manages to be creepy while being very minimal and subtle. The plot is very original. You might expect the mummy to be on some kind of revenge mission, but no, all he's doing is trying to be reunited with his mummy girlfriend, the Princess Ankhsenamen. The Mummy is still a very quiet picture. It moves along at a leisurely pace, so if you're hoping for action and gore, this isn't the movie for you. The thing about all these old movies is you have to be in the right state of mind to watch them. It's all about the mood, and this one has a haunting quality that's rarely been matched. The last thing I want to say, which makes it so unique, is that there never was a sequel. Unlike all the other Universal monsters that kept coming back, the original Imhotep mummy never rose again. The Mummy's Hand was made in 1940 during the second phase of Universal's horror cycle. The monsters of this period were usually more like reboots than sequels. The Mummy's Hand is no exception, having zero connection with the original film, although it does borrow some plot elements and recycle some footage, mostly the flashback scenes. There's very little trace of that creepy mood that enriched the first movie, but I can't say it isn't entertaining. In fact, you might say it's more entertaining than the first movie, but in a cheaper kind of way. It moves along at a brisk pace and has more of an action-adventure feel. It's never boring, and at 1 hour and 7 minutes, you really don't have much to lose. That's a pretty short movie, isn't it? But guess what? It's the longest of all the Karras films. Yeah, so next time you're thinking about spending a few hours watching Gone with the Wind, you could be watching all the Mummy movies instead. The Mummy's Tomb is a direct sequel to The Mummy's Hand. Karras' new mission is, nothing more than to just kill off the rest of the archaeologists who invaded the tomb of Princess Ananka. But he doesn't stop there. He just kills anybody, just for the hell of it. This time, the mummy's played by Lon Chaney Jr., who you'll never recognize, but it's nice knowing that our favorite monster star of the 40s is under those bandages. The Mummy's Tomb is a cheap, uninspired sequel. It doesn't do anything new with the franchise, but raise the body count. This is when it starts to feel more like a slasher series. But for any lover of classic horror films, it gives you exactly what you'd want. Nothing more, nothing less. The Mummy's Ghost. Playing the mummy was no easy task. Chaney had to be wrapped in bandages all day long, but not just that, but he was covered in liquid clay and dirt, making it one of his most uncomfortable and brutal roles. In the book, Universal Horrors, Chaney told fellow actor William Phipps on the set of The Indian Fighter that when he was playing the mummy, he would have a flask of vodka underneath his bandages with a tube running to his mouth, so all day he'd be sipping the vodka. It's sad to think that he had such a horrible time that he had to get himself drunk, but the idea of a staggering, vodka-sipping mummy is too funny not to laugh at. This movie takes the conventional happy ending and throws it out the window. Overall, I have mixed feelings about this one. It relies too much on copying the other movies, but it has some chilling scenes of Karras stalking about at night. And of course, a great ending. I think it's about as good as The Mummy's Tomb. Again, no masterpiece, but it's definitely a worthy entry in the series. The Mummy's Curse. This is the final film in the Karis Mummy series, and you can see why, because the series completely ran out of steam. This takes place 25 years after The Mummy's Tomb and The Mummy's Ghost, which both took place 30 years after The Mummy's Hand, which would mean The Mummy's Curse takes place in 1995. Who would ever imagine they set this movie in a decade where the world was being littered with Pogs and free AOL discs? This is a stale and unimaginative finale to the Karis Mummy series, but there are some good highlights, like all the mummy murder scenes and Ananka rising in the swamp. I also like the swamp setting, because it's nice to see something different.